New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth, to live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge, on the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
Hello and welcome to Growing Edge Live. I'm Allie Benjamin, and I am so happy to be here today. I always look forward to Mondays, to sharing my guest, to sharing all of the things that they're doing and I'm doing. And if you're here for the first time, I'm so glad that you found us. And if you're here because you enjoy the content of Growing Edge Live, welcome back. We have conversations with individuals that channel their time, their talent, their love, their creativity into doing good work in the world. And this week is a special episode. I title it Her Wings Appeared. And we're doing this once a month. And my friend, partner, collaborator, and creative genius, author, writer, Diana Soroka is my special guest today. She's not really a guest. She's the usual co-host of Her Wings Appeared. So thank you for being here, Diana.
Thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here, especially today.
Yeah, we have some big news today. We have come to a point in our project, which is a book that we have been creating together for the past year or so, but both of us in our own lives have been working on this project probably since we arrived way back when on this Earth planet. And so I think, Diana, I'd love it if you would share a little bit about this project and your writing journey within it. And then we'll bounce back and forth between the ways that this project has evolved and where we are and the exciting news that we have to share. And yeah, let's just start with you and this project and where we are.
Well, we are writing a book, and we are possibly halfway through the book writing, the book making stage. And I'm very excited and relieved, as I know you are too. But to kind of go back to the beginning, because I think we might need to do that just a little bit, is that Allie and I met a few years ago when we were both attending a year-long certification process program about the Enneagram. We both wanted to learn more about it and possibly become practitioners. And that was the first time we met. And because the program was in two different places, it was in Denver sometimes, and sometimes it was in Phoenix. So neither of us lived in either of those locations, so we always had to get some kind of lodging, and we chose to lodge together because when we met, there was some kind of spark. There was some kind of recognition, whatever you want to call it, where we both saw right away that we wanted to know more about each other. So we started lodging together, and then after the program was completed, we continued to meet on a weekly basis through Zoom. And just to continue to get to know each other more, we felt like there was something coming out of us, some kind of collaboration, but we weren't sure what it was. And so we kind of explored some different options, and none of them really stuck until, well, Allie, why don't you tell them a little bit first about Her Wings Appeared, your journey with your artwork to that point, because that's kind of what sparked it.
Yeah. Well, I have always loved to draw and paint ever since I was a little child. My father was an artist, and I would, I think, doodle, make, words, and in the margins of my pages at school and in my journals, I was always wanting to express myself through my drawings. And as life gets busy and starts to unfold, I got married and had children, and I didn't really put a lot of time into drawing. I didn't have a lot of time for drawing or painting, but I always saw myself in that space. I always considered myself an artist, and I took a few classes along the way to keep that energy going. But when my children were a little older and I had a little bit more time, I started creating things, jewelry and beading and painting and drawing. Well, actually, it started with drawing. And I was, at that time, I was in my mid to late 30s at the time. And I started a spiritual course and real deep dive. It really has been, I've been doing it ever since, learning, studying, reading, exploring, going on retreats, pilgrimages. I have a deep meditative practice, and so that's always been of great interest to me. So my drawings and paintings sort of grew along with my spiritual life. And I started to draw things that were more representative of how I was feeling in terms of being connected to everything, waking up to oneness, feeling this sort of interconnectedness with life. And so I started drawing the female form, sort of like the stereotypical goddess image that you might see if you look through sacred texts, the goddess with her arms up and no clothing with a spiral at the center. And so I really got kind of obsessed with drawing this image, and she started to change over time and become more nuanced. And it felt like I was somehow having a relationship with these goddesses or these images that I was drawing. It seemed to be almost like a point of focus for my meditations. There was something growing and something happening. And I felt this to be part of my spiritual practice, actually, the drawing and the paint, the drawing of the goddesses. And so that continued for a couple of decades. I became, I got asked to do some logos for different retreats, and I got asked to create a couple of book covers. And I also started producing my own greeting card series and writing poems that went along with these female forms, these goddesses, to sort of explain what they were. And I would get people outreach to me and say, "Oh, we used your poem in our women's group," and so it became something that I was really known for in our area. And I'm currently living at the top of Utah. And so in Utah, I founded a spiritual center and conducted a lot of art and soul play shops where I would lead and guide people through painting their own goddesses, their own images, their own, spiritual kind of paintings. They weren't always to do with the goddess, but they were just ways of bringing the invisible out into life, through that spiritual feeling and through that feeling of connectedness and reverence for life. So, long story, but when the lockdown occurred, COVID, my husband and I went on the road, and we took off for a whole year and traveled around the country, coast to coast. And I took my paints, because at this point my drawings had turned into paintings as well. And one day, and I remember the day very clearly, I was in Grass Valley, California. I drew my first goddess with wings. And that was a significant point for me. That was an awakening moment. It was profound. And so, what was that, 5 years ago now? So I've been avidly using these images in creating memes for social media, along with a phrase, which is "her wings appeared." And I usually add "her wings appeared" when, for instance, she faced her fears. And so my art and my spiritual guidance, I guess, and it was always for me more than I felt like it was for other people. I always felt like I was writing these images and memes and coupling them with my goddesses. And so I think that's where Diana first saw my goddesses, with these phrases, and "her wings appeared." And yeah, so that's how we got to the point where we decided to venture off into a project that included this theme of "her wings appeared" and my art. And then Diana brings such an element to what we've been working on that I was unable to do by myself, or I wouldn't have even attempted to do what we're doing today if it hadn't been for Diana, because the painting was really enough for me. That's where my passion lies. Until Diana started sharing her idea with me, and then something else got born in me, and we can talk about that. So is that a good setup for what we're...
Yes, that's great. That gives a little background to the roots of this project. And I will just share that, just a quick little bit about my life. I've been an educator all my life. And by the time that Ali and I met, I had stepped away from education. I had retired. And but I had so I was an educator all my life. I had a rough beginning into the world. And I knew I was married and pregnant with, and I knew right away that I needed to dive deep if I wanted my kids to have a different life than I had. So that's when I say my golden spiritual thread began with me. I dived in. I just read everything. I researched everything. I just wanted to know all there was about me, why I was the way I was, and how I could feel better about myself. And so that's where I began. And I eventually, ended up as a teacher, an educational leader, did all kinds of stuff in education. But throughout all those years, that spiritual thread was there, kind of guiding my way and helping me to heal the parts of myself that needed to be healed. And I continue to do that till today. But And I've always been a good writer. That was one of my gifts. So I wrote when I could, how I could, and oftentimes it was about me. It helped me to get to the depth of my soul, to learn how to see things and be aware of myself and my actions, my thoughts, my words. And so that was my history. And then when I retired, I really kind of went deeper with the writing, and I took it to another level. And it was very kind of direct, frank way that I speak and write. I was just really trying to get to the heart of this certain emptiness I felt, this certain unworthiness I felt. And so it's kind of like the driving factor behind my writing, just the truth of who I am. And it worked. I've come so far. I know a lot about myself, and I continue to find out more about myself, and I continue to heal those tender pieces of me that are still tender, even at 68 years old. And Allie and I are both Enneagram type 4s. So this is kind of passion work for us. If you know anything about the Enneagram type 4, we just love to grow personally. We love that process of finding out about who we are, why we are the way we are, and finding the solution, if there is a solution. Like, how do we make it through? How do we get to the other side? So I've been doing that for years. I have a blog. I have a group of women called Wild Hearts. It's WILDD, Wild Hearts, and it's an acronym. It means wildly inspired by life's divine dance. So that just gives you a little bit of a background. Like, I'm a writer, and it's a passion work. And Allie is an artist. She draws and she paints. It's her passion work. So one early morning, around 3 a.m, Gus visited me. Gus is God, universe, spirit. I speak with her quite frequently, and she likes to wake me up in the morning, and she did. She woke me up, and she said, "This is what you're going to do. You're going to you and Allie are going to write a book, and it's going to be surrounded by her wings appearing." And I love Allie's wings and her goddesses. They're just beautiful. And so they've spoken to me, but I never even put together, I personally didn't put it together, like goddesses and books and writing, and until that morning when I had a little bit of help. And I could not wait for it to get late enough in the morning that I could let Allie know that I wanted to talk with her. And we spoke, and I said, "I have this idea and I know what we're supposed to do." And she was like, "Oh, yeah, I love it. I know." "I've always wanted to do something with this. I knew there was something, but I love this idea." And so that's how it came together, her openness to invite someone else in to share this collaboration with her. And I'm so grateful that she did that, because it has been a magnificent road. It's been holy, horrible, wonderful, all of that. We have cried and laughed and been inspired and hid under the covers and all of that in the course of a day sometimes. but we have done it, and we have grown from this. We've grown and we've learned a lot. And I think that's what you want to talk about a little bit, is that the process of, what we've learned about ourselves and others and discovered, the discovery process through the writing. So where do you want to go next?
Yeah, well, so what our project is, yes, it's a book, and it's an anthology of stories. And first of all, it was going to be maybe just Diana writing stories, because she's been writing for so long, and she has a lot of personal stories. And she has a lot of stories that are sort of based on some of the women she's met along the way, and as she's witnessed their struggles and their successes. And so she shared that idea. And then as we started to have our meetings every week, we would also go into our own space and obviously think about this a lot and attempt to come up with ideas of how the art and the stories would go together. And then over the course of the month, what we realized is that we want this to be bigger than just the two of us, that we've both been very active in women's circles, supporting each other and supporting our friends. And so we had that conversation about, do we want to include others? And we both had a strong resounding yes. And so we both started to invite friends and acquaintances to share their story. So Diana created a beautiful call or invitation to send out. And we did through email. We sent out, I don't know, 100 or more invitations to individuals that we felt might be interested, that had a similar love for life as we do, and respect for women and empowerment and creativity and leadership. And we started getting immediate responses from women saying, oh my gosh, I feel so honored to be invited to share my story. And so Diana has been working this close, even closer with many of the women that have contributed to helping them move through the process of refining their story, of finding their voice, of facing their fears, and expressing themselves more fully, more authentically, more passionately through their stories. And in that process, I felt inspired I wanted to be a part of this story writing too. So I had a few poems that I had shared with Diana, and she loved the idea of including those in the book. But when I said, I said I want to write too, she was very open to that. And I did. I immediately wrote 5 stories. I'm almost finished with my 6th. And so I've got 6 stories. Diana's got many more. And then we've got several women that also have collaborated with us. And our book is such a beautiful, it's more than a book. It's an experience. It could be used as something to connect with other women, to support you through a challenging time, to inspire you when you maybe have writer's block or creative, your energy isn't flowing. There's a weaving of the mystical. There's a weaving of different themes, courage and love, and there's grief, there's awakening, there's all kinds of things in this book. And it's really truly become so much more than I had. It took on a life of its own. It grew wings, Diana. It grew wings, and it's now carrying us forward.
Yes. And, one of the things that was, I think that sometimes I take for granted is because of all my years of personal growth and writing and letting things out, I forgot about the courage it takes to open yourself up and be vulnerable. it takes a lot of processing, like, because we're concerned, and I have felt it too, because some of my stories are pretty raw and pretty honest. But how will people see me? Will they see me differently? Will they still love me? Will they think less of me? That's a real thing in our society, and it's something to overcome. And so these women have had to, that actually went through the whole process and decided to share their story in the book. They've had to do that. They've had to release the fear and to move forward courageously. Like, this is my story. I'm owning it. And part of that reason is because it's a release for them, but it's also to help others, because the book is also, when you were just talking about what the book is, I'm like, it's a mirror. It's a mirror for each person who reads it, because you'll find at least one story in there where you see yourself, and you may be saying, oh my gosh, I need to do this, or, oh my gosh, look how much courage I had. Look at the bravery. Look at, how I overcame, just like she did, through this situation, event, growing period, whatever it is, just making it my way through it. And that's what I think. I can't even tell you. Well, Allie knows. We've read the stories, and sometimes honestly, it's not unusual that I have sobbed through some of the stories, and sometimes just laughed as well. So you're right. It has taken a life on it. It's taken on its own life. It has grown wings, and I'm just inspired by all the writers and what this book is becoming.
Yeah, it truly is. Why don't we stop here for a couple of minutes and take a break? And then when we come back, Diana, I love to get into what we discovered as we came up with the chapter names, as we selected the stories, because we've got 50 plus stories. Mm-hmm. And we decided where they would fit in each chapter. And we noticed something phenomenal, something truly magical come from this whole process. And that's what I'd love to talk about next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
Sounds great.
All right. So we'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Please help us say thank you to all of our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Center for Spiritual Living United Life, Sunshine Cathedral, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Universal Joy Center, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Home Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. On behalf of New Thought Media Network, thank you, and please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, come be you. Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk, Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Unity of Garden Park, New Thought Philadelphia, the Sunshine Cathedral, Unity of Savannah, and the Om Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge. On the growing edge.
And now, here's Allie.
And we're back. Diana and I are here talking about our new project, Her Wings Appeared. And we're at a stage right now in the project, in the creation, that is very significant. We have completed all of the content of our book, and we just sent it off to the editor last night. And so we're super excited about the journey we've been on. Today we're talking about that journey, our partnership as co-authors. And the book's title is Her Wings Appeared. And we just shared about, what this has been for us and what we've realized. Something I think we might want to highlight here is what wings are. Wings are something we all innately carry. Wings can be strength, they can represent love or wisdom, and they appear, not actually appear, but they appear when we face something like a challenge or a difficult time or something that's occurring that is new. And so the wings, we believe everyone has them. We believe, no, we can't see them, but they appear right on time, always, and lift us to higher ground. And so in sharing these stories of when women's wings have appeared, when they've met a moment and maybe did something different, or didn't say anything, or did say something, rather than overtalk or overdo or overgive. So it's about self-discovery, it's about awakening, and it's about empowerment, and a lot more. So do you want to share anything about wings? Because I know that this is the whole core or heart of our book.
Yeah, I think that was one of the great tasks. Maybe one of the hardest tasks was getting really clear on what wings meant to us, as we wrote this book, before we wrote this book. And we both agreed that we're born with our wings. They're part of our original nature. They are the innate capacities that are within us to live with, like Allie just said, courage, truth, compassion, love, creativity, wisdom. And they exist, and I'm saying in every woman, because that's what we're talking about here from the beginning. But it's not something that we have to earn later in life, but it's something that's already present, and that we lose sight of them. They don't appear as often because of how society, our families, experiences, trauma molds us as we grow older. So that's when that fear comes up, and the shame, and all of that quiet grooming, I call it, as we experience life. So then I think that my vision of this, as we take care of ourselves, as we learn about ourselves and face what needs, what we need to face, or overcome what we need to overcome, or to get rid of the false story that's there, and we face it and change that story or move through the fear, then our wings, some of the weight is lifted, and our wings, even if it's one feather at a time, our wings can unfold, and be in their glory. And they're standing right there with us all the time. They're always there. We just need sometimes to help uncover them.
Yeah, exactly. So through reading all of these stories, we realized there were some central themes. And so we've identified 6 for this book, our first book. And the first chapter is called She Faced Her Fear. Mm-hmm. And within this chapter, there's several stories that talk about women's opportunities these women have had to face their fear and to move through it. And so the stories come from different women, different ages and phases of their lives, and they speak so, like you said, vulnerably, so openly about what it takes to really be honest with ourselves in the face of something truly scary or devastation, or something that has happened. And so what did you see, or what have you experienced as you've read the stories in this first chapter, She Faced Her Fear? What are some of the things that people can expect to look at as fears?
Well, I'm just thinking about to some of the stories that I remember. Women, some are anyone keeping silent in a marriage that isn't working, but staying silent because if they tell the truth might disrupt their lives or their entire structure of their family. So rather than live truer or address whatever is going on, they just keep it quietly within. So that's the type of story that I've seen. When a woman postpones a dream that she has because she worries, she's afraid that she might fail, so she doesn't even try. There's a lot of fear in our world, and within us, and a lot of times we're not even aware of it until we are.
Right. And what I see time and time again, not just in this first chapter, but in all of the chapters, how much courage we have once we face our fears, instead of, like you said, bite your tongue or stay too long, or don't even try something that's been a passion or a dream, because the fear of disappointing others, or the fear of appearing selfish, or the fear of not having what it takes. And all of these fears seem to stem back for most of the women that and most of the stories in this book, they stem back to childhood, where we develop strategies and ways of coping with life that cuts off part of our willingness or our ability to really step up and step out for ourselves, and we sort of settle. And when we settle for too long with what might be comfortable but not exciting, what might be necessary, at the time. We just kind of fall into a routine or fall into a story. And what these stories have shown me is that we can change our story. Mm-hmm. And the women in this book, especially this chapter, She Faced Her Fear, are showing tremendous courage as they write a new story. And so the second chapter is, and it sort of grows through this facing fear, is many women come to find what really matters. And that's the second chapter. She realized what really matters. And in that, it's like a whole new doorway, or a whole new life can open up for it. And it's not for just women. It's for any of us. When we face our fears and we start to see more clearly what really, really matters in our lives, when we start to connect with our own values, when we start to look at, why am I here? What's my purpose? And then we find what really matters. And I think for both of us, this book and this project that we've been doing together has become what really matters for us right now. Mm-hmm. So what have you found as you've looked at this second, maybe it's a threshold, facing your fears, the first threshold, recognizing or realizing what really matters is a second threshold that also takes courage.
What I noticed about what really matters, that coming to that is, it's not always, but usually moments when you figure out, well, it's after you've had loss, or aging, illness, or sudden awareness of time that is not limitless. Mm-hmm. That it comes to, and oftentimes when you realize or go through these things, it's a very simple process. You can see what matters very clearly once you've gone through the fire, or just take the time and energy to be present in that thought and and making that decision and setting those values in your life, what is most important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that these stories can help others that maybe haven't got to that stage. They're in the thick of life, raising children, or in that thick in their career, and they haven't really had time to look at what really matters. I think this book will be a prompt to hear of other people, the other women that have identified that for themselves. Could be that spark that lights something within the reader, to help them take a look at that. And,
right.
And I think the next chapter is sort of the next threshold, or the next step along this awakening arc, which is she gave voice to her soul. So she faced her fear, she realized what really matters, and she gave voice to her soul. So what does that mean to you in the evolutionary journey that you've seen through these women and through your own journey?
Well, I think that a lot of women that I have been working with, they've learned to be agreeable, very helpful, accommodating, keeping the life flow smoothing. They're capable, they're reliable, they take care of people. But over time, sometimes they lose their own voice, or it becomes very faint. And I think that that's what this chapter is about, when they start speaking from the deepest part of themselves instead of the most acceptable part. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. And that sounds simple, but it's hard. It's a hard, again, it goes back to that courage and that fear, all of that's there. So I think that once you kind of start understanding and become aware of the fear, and you can kind of let it go a little, you can start working more on being who you truly are, using your voice to give your opinion or to state what you want in life, or for dinner, for that matter. You can just start using your voice more freely and more comfortably.
Yeah. And the word that goes along with this chapter is truth. You know, when we give voice to our soul, we start speaking our truth. We might start asserting our boundaries, or saying no more often, or saying yes more often. And I think, again, when we read stories of how other women have done this, it then makes it more real, or more available to us, to be able to trust our own voice, to have the strength, because we've faced our fears, we've identified what really matters to us, and then it's a very natural evolution to be able to be in alignment with our truth and be able to verbalize that and clearly state that. It's a very I feel like my wings sprouting a little more firmly, even just thinking about speaking my truth and sharing what's on my mind and in my heart, because there's been many times that I don't in order to fit in, or be appropriate, or what have you. And the next chapter is She Let Go. And I think this phase of when we get to that point where we've learned to be brave and speak up and share what's in our hearts, to let go of what isn't as important as it used to be, or let go of heartache, or some blame we may have had directed towards someone or something. We start to get more available to let go of things. And I think this chapter is especially empowering, because sometimes we don't even know what we're holding on to. I like to think of the phrase, it's my story and it's sticking to me, or it's my story and I'm sticking to it, or there's a lot of times we hold on to ideas or stories or beliefs that we don't know are limiting us and holding us back. So letting go it seems like the very natural next chapter in the series, or this arc of awakening. How about you? What's letting go, forgiveness, release?
Yeah, there's I think that it's important to say that, because I think that sometimes letting go can be misunderstood, because the idea of forgetting the past or pretending something didn't hurt is in the forefront of our brains when we think of letting go, instead of letting go of something that no longer serves us. It could be a belief, it could be those feelings like you're talking about: grief, resentment, anger, regret. I was thinking about this, and one of the things that I let go of pretty successfully, and I'm grateful for it, was that idea, that standard I had for myself of being performing in a certain way. And I'm going to say that probably for me, it was perfection, my idea of what perfection was. And whenever I finally got that and understood it at the deeper level, rather than just saying it, but really got it, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how it changed my life. I feel so much lighter and so much happier with the idea that good enough is good enough. It doesn't, things don't have to be perfect. And so I think that's one example of how I let go. let something go, and it worked very well for me.
Yeah, and when we hold on to things and things that we don't realize we're holding on to, or things that we do, there's something more on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so the letting go is so it's not just about releasing a lot of heavy baggage or energy or mental pressure or anxiety, or it's also, there's so much more that becomes available once we do let go. And this story, this chapter truly is about liberation. It's about freedom. And there's nothing more aligned with wings than this sense of freedom. Freedom to soar, freedom to thrive, freedom to be ourselves. And the next chapter is titled She Let Her Light Shine. And this is, again, the natural evolutionary process of working through our challenges, facing our fears, understanding what really matters, letting go, or finding our voice, letting go. And then we have such a greater capacity to let our love flow and to let ourselves be our most authentic, genuine, loving self. Because what I have found through the writing of my 6 stories is that at the end of the day, I get to choose who I'm going to be moment by moment by moment. And it's occurred to me this last month as never before how who I want to be is love. I may have had reasons in the past for wanting to hold on to, some kind of, resentment, or hold myself back or close my heart. But now I've really faced all of these stages through writing these stories. I realize I'm going to choose love every time. I'm going to let my love flow into every nook and cranny of my life. Because at the end of the day, that's how I want my family to see me and experience me, as the presence of love. And love doesn't mean I'm always saying yes to everyone. It means I'm going to sometimes say no, and that could be the most loving thing I do. But being the presence of love is how I land in this chapter.
So,
how about you?
So I'm a little confused. I just want to make sure I'm right. So are you talking about, because they can kind of meld together, that she let her light shine, or responding with love?
Responding with love. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, I know I called it the wrong name. It's the chapter is She Responded with Love.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that is often, I think, the hardest choice that a person can make. But we're human beings, and sometimes our button gets pushed, and it can be really hard to respond with love. And I think that I don't think you can go wrong responding with love in the first place, but I know it's a hard decision to make. And it doesn't mean that you're tolerating harmful behavior, because that's not good either, or pretending even that, you've been hurt or that pain doesn't exist. But I think it's about making that choice, like you said, making that choice of choosing compassion and humanity, instead of allowing bitterness, or anger or ego to take over. I think that that's what it is. And it's really, because a lot of times it would be so much easier, given what we've experienced in our life, with possibly divorce, disappointments, betrayal, complicated family things. It would be so easy to just close our hearts. And I can say there have been times when I wanted to say, just fine, be that way. I'm not even going to allow you to penetrate this, to come into my life, even though it's a significant person in my life who I adore and I love, but maybe they're behaving, in a difficult way. I have in my head, I've thought that it would be easier just to close up. But like you, I make the choice to let my pain or their pain define who I'm going to be.
Exactly. So we come to the last chapter, which is it's similar to She Responded to Love for me, because responding to love or responding with love is for me letting my love flow and being the presence of love. And that's similar to the last chapter, which is She Let Her Light Shine. But letting her light shine is one step further. There's this sense that in this awakening process, we're now fully revealing ourselves, fully expressing ourselves in all of our magnificence, in all of our light, and being that light for others, being a safe place where those around us can feel the permission or feel the acceptance of being accepted, being appreciated for who they are, just as they are, in their pure, magnificent light. So we've got 1 minute, Diana. I'm going to leave it with you. What do you have to say about She Let Her Light Shine?
I would like to say that we women learn, often very unconsciously, to soften, to dull our brightness so that other people feel comfortable. We minimize our achievements. We stay quiet about a lot of things. But I think that when women walk into their brilliance, when they stop shrinking, the whole energy of a room changes, and it's absolutely beautiful when a woman walks in her full, pure presence of who she is.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Diana. I know we will be back next month to have an update on where we are in our book project. Her Wings Appeared, and I look forward to that.
Me too.
And thank you to the Satya Center who has sponsored this episode, and thank you to New Thought Media Network, who is our production, and to my producer Michael behind the scenes. And thank you for you being here today. If you would like to support this Growing Edge Live podcast, you can do so at growingedgelive.com. You can see the little icon at the top of the screen if you would like to support this so that we can bring more of these wonderful episodes to you and to bring more guests onto this beautiful platform. So thank you again. Appreciate you, love you, and send you every blessing and lots of love from Diana and me. Mwah. Bye-bye.
Free my mind, open my heart with the whispers of truth. To live a conscious life, to live a conscious life on the growing edge.